Hi, welcome to Hello Church. I'm Wade Bearden.
And I'm Justin Trapp, and today we're going to be talking about 6 productivity hacks in a digital era. Things that are going to help you be more productive, because we know a lot of us have been working from home remotely. Remote will be more of our future as a society, and so how can you be more productive? We're going to be talking about 6 easy things you can do.
If you are watching or listening to this on YouTube, make sure to subscribe. So every time we post a new episode of Hello Church, you'll get a notification. Also, we love your comments. We love all the YouTube comments. So if you have a productivity hack, make sure to put it in the comment section. If you're listening to this on Spotify or Stitcher or Apple iTunes, make sure to subscribe and to give us a rating and review. Every little bit helps.
Yeah, so let's dive right in. We all can waste time in a day, right? We all can waste time in a week. But there are also things that can help us, restore that time, help us be a lot more efficient, not just a little bit more efficient, marginally, but a lot more efficient. And so we have 6 tips or 6 hacks, if you will, that can help you really, really make your days a lot more productive. And so some of you may have heard of these, maybe 1 or 2 really stick with you. That's great. Like if you can just apply one of these hacks, we've done our job. So.
And it's not necessarily about becoming an overly productive person in the sense that every moment of every day has to be spent building something or creating something. But you do have time allotted to your work. And if you can be more productive, that gives you more time as a pastor to visit with other individuals, more time to spend moments with your family, and to create some good memories. So this is all really to help you focus. There's so many distractions. I mean, so many distractions, whether you have an Apple Watch or you have a phone or the internet. You're just kind of pulled off course in every direction. So hopefully this will be a help to you as we kind of work through these one by one.
So productivity hack number 1, the Pomodoro Technique. And the Pomodoro Technique is really allocating short periods of work followed by a really short break. And the Pomodoro Technique really says 25 minutes of work, focused work, and then a 5-minute break. And then after a certain amount of time, then you have like a 15-minute break. I've actually done something similar to this that felt so rigid when I began. And even a lot of the office people made fun of me a little bit for it, but it actually gave me a lot of freedom. And I would do something similar where I would time block. So I would only answer email twice a day at this time. So from like 11:30 a.m., so right before lunch, I wouldn't check my email first thing in the morning. I didn't want to get sidetracked, because when you check your email first thing in the morning, you almost become a slave to everyone else's demands or things of you. You're not in charge of your own day anymore a lot of times. So I would check my email at 11:30 a.m. for 15 minutes, and then I would get ready for lunch. And then I would check my email after a few hours, like towards the end of the day. And that's the only time I was able to check email. So I know this is not the Pomodoro Technique, but it's very similar. It's essentially time blocking your time. And I found that if I was only supposed to write for these 25 minutes and then I was going to take a break afterwards, it was sort of liberating. I don't have the burden or the weight of the world or everything, right? I just have to focus on this one thing. And when I did that, it actually made my life a lot simpler. It was really great.
Yeah, I would do that too with social media, and maybe just really limit yourself. And
only check it never.
Check it never. And if you're going to get into a discussion that's going to cause you to come back, it could derail your entire day, because you're frustrated at an argument you're having, and then you're thinking through your response, and it's just working out. So if you're going to get on social media during the day, set off blocks of time. But I like this because you can devote 25 minutes of intense work and then 5 minutes of break. So you're getting really every hour 10 minutes of break time, which recharges your mind. Another technique, and I do this a lot, is to decide your top 3. So usually I like to do this the day before, maybe at the end of the day, or if I'm going to work on a Monday, on Saturday night, I'll do this. I'll sit down and I'll write down my top 3 tasks for that next day, where if I can accomplish these 3 things, then my day is going to be successful. And I remember being in Sunday school, they used to always do this illustration. They get this big jar, and they put a bunch of sand in it, and then they get like softballs, and they try to pack them in, and it wouldn't fit. and then they would take the sand out and they would put the softballs in there and then put the sand in, and they're like, you got to put God first and then everything else will kind of work, right?
We'll see you next time.
I think that's a good way to look at your schedule. If you can knock out those big things, the smaller things will kind of fill up as you go. Or if those smaller things aren't as important and you don't get them accomplished in a particular day, it's okay, because you got your big things set out. So I would encourage you, write down at the beginning of the day or maybe at the end of the day in preparation for that next work day. What are your 3 main goals? What 3 things do you want to accomplish? And if you do that 5 days a week, you're going to knock out 15 big ticket items every single week. And that's going to make you, it's going to set you up for success.
Yeah, when you define the win, right? Clarify the win. Wasn't that like an Andy Stanley book? In one of his
it might be
7 effective practices of ministry. Yeah. Clarify the win. Clarify the win for your day, and I think that starting with the top 3 is really, really important. I'll move on to the next one, which is remove distractions. We're reading a book as a team right now called "Your Future Self Will Thank You," and he talks about how a lot of times, not just we waste time, but we have bad habits, and they're not conscious, right? So no one thinks, or let me say this, we move throughout our day in a lot of ways in autopilot. Mm-hmm. No one says, I feel like I'm just going to waste time right now.
Yeah.
It's a habit of wasting time. And so it's important that you remove the distractions that waste your time, where you all of a sudden, like for instance, there's an app called OneFocus. And OneFocus is a free app, and you can basically blacklist websites, so Facebook, Twitter, and you can turn on the app, and it literally will not let you turn it off for a certain period of time. So you can say, hey, for the next hour, I need supreme focus, and I don't want any sort of temptation. I don't want to be able to go to Fox News or CNN or The Hill or Politico or Facebook or Newswire, whatever the case may be. And so if you try to go to it, it literally blocks it, and you can't unlock the app, which is a beautiful thing. Mm-hmm. So that's one productivity hack I have is basically I use that app especially when I'm writing or if I'm just trying to really focus, because a lot of times we're wasting time without realizing. It's just a habit. Yeah. We get sidetracked so fast, and before long we've wasted 25 minutes.
Well, and when we get in the groove, if we are distracted, it takes time to get back in it. So whenever I'm writing, oh man, the first 20 minutes, I maybe write 3 sentences.
Yeah.
Right? The next 20 minutes after that, I write 5 paragraphs, because you're getting into that zone, you're getting into that flow. If I'm distracted every 15 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, then I've got to stop and get back in that groove again. And so if you are allowing yourself to be distracted, you are going to really pull away from your attention, and you're going to hop back in, and you're going to have to start all over again. And so that's why it's important to remove distractions whenever you can.
And we know this, like for those of you that are doing remote now and you have small kids, good luck. It
just happens, right?
Yeah, it just when I was officing at home for a season several years ago, we had a 2-year-old, and there was a big glass door on my office, and he literally would come to the office and beat on the door and be like, "Daddy!" I mean, he's 2 years old, so he's like, he just wanted me to let him in the room so he could just be with me, and he didn't understand. And at that point, like I don't, there's not a whole lot that you just kind of push through it. But
and if you work for 25 minutes and take 5-minute breaks, that could help a little bit. But none of these principles are etched in stone. It requires flexibility. Number 4 is this is a good one. It goes back to, you mentioned Drew Dyke's book, Your Future Self Will Thank You. Understand the limits of willpower. It's funny because there have been tests that are done. My favorite is the famous celery and chocolate chip test. They had college students come in, and they gave them celery and chocolate chips. And one group, they said you can eat the chocolate chips. The other group, you can't eat that. You have to eat the celery. And then they gave them a problem. And the problem was it wasn't solvable, but they wanted to see how long they could work on it. And I was thinking, okay, the end of the experiment, the people who ate celery, who ate the brain food, they're going to be able to solve it. Yeah, they're going to work on it longer. Instead, the people who ate the chocolate chips worked on it, I think, for an average of 20 minutes, while the people who ate the celery worked on it for 8 minutes before they gave up. And so the conclusion was the people who had fought to reject those chocolate chip cookies had depleted their willpower. And as a result, they just gave up easier. So you have to understand the principle of, it's called ego depletion. And if you're constantly having to really just use your will and impose your will on a certain circumstance, then it's going to make it harder to do that. So you need to understand the limits of that, understand rest, and understand how you can balance that out. So if you have the app that cuts out Facebook, it might be that you use less willpower because you're like, I can't get on it if I wanted to.
You're not even resisting the urge.
And so you're going to be able to work longer on the projects you need to work longer at. And I think that's an important principle.
Another book that we read as a team last year was called When by Daniel Pink. And he really talks about the rhythm of humans and how doing things a certain way, waking up at a certain time can really impact your day. And one of the important moments or points that he makes in the book is taking breaks. And he has this 5 keys of taking a break. And he said something is better than nothing, right? Just taking a break is better than nothing. Breaks are good. He said moving beats stationary. So it'd be better for you to just go take a walk than for you to just take a break at your desk
and pull up on your phone.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
He said social beats solo. So there's studies that have been done that even introverts get more restoration benefits by taking breaks together socially than just a break by yourself, going outside and smoking a cigarette or something. I mean, that's a bad example. But I was thinking about when I was at a corporate job one time. It was always just funny to me, like all the smokers would take a break together because they all go smoke, and then the non-smokers, we'd go take a walk. And it was actually, I really looked forward to our breaks because it was fun. It was we're just kind of walking around the campus for 10 minutes, and it was nice.
Yeah, and it's really cool. Here at the office, we take breaks. We'll play frisbee golf.
Yeah, or bocce
ball behind our office in the yard, and that just helps out so much, especially after lunch, when you kind of get your blood flowing and get moving because you had carbs. And so that's very important, to take a break and to schedule those in. Well, just kind of rejuvenate yourself.
He even says outside is better than inside.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting is when scientists look at the perfect break, right? It's better to take a break. It's better to do it outside. It's better to do it with a group. You think recess is like what we grew up on. It's like the perfect break.
It was, we knew something and we did it back then, and for some reason we just stopped.
Yeah, man. Yeah, but scientists said that the restoration benefits of doing breaks this way is far greater than just, taking a break and looking at your Instagram feed for 5 minutes. And then lastly, it's which goes to that point, is fully detached is better than semi-detached. So don't take your phone with you on your break. If you're going to go for a walk, if you're going to go outside and throw the frisbee around, leave your phone on your desk.
Yeah, that's important. Number 6, our final productivity tip is, I mentioned this before, but it's plan the next day. Stephen King, I read his book on writing, which is a great book. If you're a writer, you should check it out. And he says that whenever he finishes writing one day, he likes to set himself up for the next day. So he'll often stop in the middle of a sentence so that when he sits down the next day, he already has a path to get going. And I think that's so important, just it could be for sermon writing, but also just in our daily tasks, to plan out how we will begin that next day and to set ourselves up for a win before we even sit down at our desk in the morning. Have a list of things that we need to do, the big 3 that we need to accomplish, and have a path to get that started. And that's going to be really important for your success.
Yeah, a good friend of ours, Michael Lukaszewski, he has like a one sheet that he fills out every evening. And he said the reason why he does it in the evenings, like right before he goes to bed, is because he still remembers the things that were important today. And a lot of times when you just go to sleep and you wake up the next morning, you know that you have things to do, but there's probably some nuanced things or something that just got missed in the chaos of life. And so what he does is he prioritizes everything the night before. Then when he wakes up, he doesn't have to spend a lot of his best new morning energy on trying to think of what he's got to do. He just has his marching orders. And I think that's a really interesting idea as well, is sort of planning ahead the night before, or even like, let's say, planning your week out. So on a Sunday evening, take a look at your calendar and prioritize the things that you need to get done that week. So you're not spending the first crucial hours of the morning figuring out what you need to do, or the first crucial moments, if you will, figuring out. You can really just get going.
Yeah, and for sermon prep, if you make sure you knock that out at the beginning of the day, that's going to be huge for you. So maybe at the end of the day, you pull out your commentaries. You have your Bible open to the passage that you're going to be studying. Maybe you download a Ministry Pass sermon series that you're working through. You pull out the guide. Man. You have Sermonary open on your computer, so that when you get into your office and you sit down with your cup of coffee, you go. And if you can work out and get your message, the steps you need done that day kind of knocked out, how great are you going to feel after that? If by 10 a.m. you're like, oh, I've already knocked out my sermon prep for the day. That's gonna free you up. Whenever I go running, I wear the same clothes. Every time I go running, I wear the same shirt, the same pants, the same socks, same shoes. I have those ready. I don't have to spend any brain power trying to find those things or to pick out what I'm going to go wear.
Especially at 4:30 a.m. in the morning.
Right, whatever it is. If you have your clothes ready for the day, you just save so much energy up front. It can be an important kickstart for your day.
Yeah, I've tried to do wear the same thing to work every day. I have multiple purchases, right? I have multiple shirts of the same one. My wife is not a big fan of it, but I will say it saves me. I can get dressed in the morning within minutes because I don't have to think about anything. I don't have to look for anything. Yeah. It's just like, hey, there's my black crew neck shirt and my brown pants. I just got to pick my shoes. That takes me, it's like, do I want my Jordans? Do I want my cash, business cash shoes? That's the most important thing in the morning.
The hardest day for me to get dressed is the day that we record these podcasts, because I'm like, oh no, I only have like 5 nice shirts. Which one did I wear last week? I don't want people to think I'm only wearing the same shirt over and over again for these podcasts.
Yeah, you're like, you know what? Give me the plaid look.
Give me the plaid look today.
I'll have the youth pastor look.
I mean, honestly, if you go through the thumbnails on these podcast episodes on YouTube, you're going to see this shirt a couple times.
You'll probably just see me in a black. I actually wore a collared shirt today. I switched it up.
I like that.
But most of the time, yeah. Next episode. What's the next episode? Embarrassing moments. Actually,
I had to look down to see that. That was an embarrassing moment.
We're actually going to share some pretty embarrassing.
Yeah, we got some fun stories about embarrassing moments while you're preaching. Yeah, and then too, like, what do you do when you say something embarrassing or offensive in your message, or somebody else says something during your service that's offensive?
Yeah,
how do you handle that?
How do you recover? Can you recover?
Is it possible, or should you just move? That might be the case.
Should you just shut it down?
Dismissed. So that's going to be a fun episode. Once again, make sure to subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube. Send us your productivity hacks in the comments. If you listen on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or Spotify, make sure to subscribe and rate and review us. That is so important. When people subscribe and rate and review, it gets the podcast out. And then I also like to say, make sure to share this with a pastor that could use the help. You don't have to be like, hey, I don't think you're very productive. You should listen to this episode. But maybe you could say something like, this episode helped me. Maybe it'll help you.
We'll take any review, but we do give out free bonuses for 5-star reviews.
Yeah, we give you a thumbs up.
Bonuses.
A kudos. Thanks for listening to this episode of Hello Church. We'll catch you next time.